Hello, my big chunguses. It's Onion Creature, and today is a nice day because we get to talk about Kirby. Kirby is back, baby. So with the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2 on April 2nd of this year, we got a few different game announcements. The most notable to me personally were, of course, the Kirby announcements. We've been in a minor Kirby drought for some time now, since early 2023, when the last main Kirby game was released, which was a remake of Kirby's Return to Dreamland, pictured above. He's been absent for a good second now, which is relatively unusual, but I think in the wake of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I could kind of understand it. I thought, they're probably going to be cooking up something big for the next main title. And guess what, buddy? They sure as hell were. And we have not only one new game, but 1.5 new games. That's right, friend. Before we dive into the delightful topic of the return of Kirby in 2025, there's a few less happy points I would like to discuss, specifically in relation to Nintendo as a whole and the Switch 2. The situation around that has become somewhat complicated because, of course, these games are releasing on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it would make sense to discuss that as well. Firstly is the game price. Game prices in general are increasing. I think most of us imagined it would be from $60 to $70, but it turns out, actually no, there's another higher tier of pricing, which is $80. Oh God, for Mario Kart Tour, no, Mario Kart World, God, $80 for Mario Kart Tour, that's a dire prospect. Anyway, Mario Kart World is $80, yikes. But we also have $70 games, like Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's a sticky situation there. Don't really like it. Will this directly affect Kirby games? Personally, hopefully not, I would say, at this point. We will see though. Everything is fluid, things can change. That's so fun and cool. But if I had to guess, I think most main Kirby games releasing on Switch 2 that would have been $60 on Switch 1 will likely be at least $70 on Switch 2. If they do bridge into $80 territory, that would be a bit of a problem. Kirby as a series sells well, but is not as high a seller as something like Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, Pokemon. Could potentially be detrimental to sales and the amount of people experiencing the product. I hope not, but it is a larger asking price, and some people might be less willing to take the chance on a series like Kirby. Our next point, game key cards. A lot of games on the Nintendo Switch 2 are releasing with a physical game cartridge, but that game cartridge will basically unlock the ability to download that game onto your system, as opposed to having any real data on the cartridge itself. Games published by Nintendo all don't appear to be using this method, which is good because I prefer to have games on the cartridge itself, especially as game file sizes is going up by quite a lot this generation. So hopefully all the Kirby games will not be game keycards. It does seem to be something that most of third parties are relying on, which is real unfortunate if you are a physical game collector. Then there was the pre-order situation for the Nintendo Switch 2, which was pretty damn bad. Websites were crashing. Nintendo themselves is doing a system where they send you an email and you can get it from their online store potentially, but it might not be there by launch day. Apparently the in-person physical pre-orders at GameStop went pretty decently, so it's not all bad. Pretty less than ideal pre-order situation for the Switch 2. Now we have the delightful topic of tariffs, something we all love, which is a really fun, awesome topic that I want to be discussing on my video game YouTube channel. We have a presidential administration, the Trump administration in the United States of America. You might have heard of it. And they're enacting tariffs on a lot of people. The amount of tariff and what is being tariffed is changing on pretty much a daily basis. They just announced tariffs on movies from foreign countries. So you have to pay 100% more if you want to buy Parasite on DVD, maybe, I don't know, unclear, but that has not extended to games specifically so far, so that's good news, but maybe it will. I don't know if Donald Trump knows what a video game is, not totally sure on that one. Even still though, the just general tariffs on different countries like China, etc., has caused the price of Switch accessories to increase by about $5 each. So if you wanted the Switch 2 camera, for example, that's up by $5 from used to be $50, now it's $55. And the company has not ruled out raising the price of the console itself. What a fun prospect. So if you want a Switch 2, you might want to act sooner rather than later on that one, because the price might go up. Cool stuff. You know, that could potentially limit access to the system itself, and game prices could go up, possibly. That could limit the amount of people that are able to get access to these Kirby games, which is a real shame. So basically all of this stuff is a dark cloud looming above all the video games slated to be released this year. It's a truly wonderful situation. Thanks for that. Okay, now we can talk about fun things that I like Kirby video games. First of all, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, featuring a new mode entitled Star-Crossed Worlds. I'm utterly delighted about this. It's the first Kirby game since 2023. I suppose it's not a full new game, but it is an expanded version of my favorite Kirby game, which is awesome. And not only does it feature all new content, it also has a performance boost for the Nintendo Switch 2. That's sick. You get 60 frames per second at 1440p, which I think is going to be really great. The original game did have those performance issues. It was at 30 frames per second. Some of the background objects and enemies ran at an even lower frame rate, so I think it's a beautiful game, obviously, but could it be improved? Sure. And is it being improved here? Certainly looks like it. This new content seems to be taking the form of altered versions of the pre-existing stages, where there's this cosmic stuff that appears and alters the layout of the stage, and it features new enemies, new mouthful modes, new music, new level elements. So quite a lot. From what I can tell, it seems like potentially every single stage in the game is getting this new Star-Crossed World version. So that's just sick. You also have a new story to go alongside this stuff, which features this thing, which looks suspiciously like a Jamba Heart from Kirby Star Allies. Interesting that. So, you know, potentially we could be getting some cool lore implications here. I don't know what that's going to be, but sure as hell I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. This is an August release, actually, so it's very, very soon. I think August 17th, thereabouts. So this is coming in hot. It's going to be here quite soon. I was at one point really hoping for DLC for Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and this is kind of like that, you know, except that it's exclusive to this new system. I will say in terms of pricing, this game is less than ideal. There's this weird thing happening with Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games where they actually are quite expensive, and the reason for that is that Nintendo just does not ever lower the price of their first-party titles in the modern age. They used to do that with Nintendo Selects. No longer. Those days are over, so you're stuck with $60 Switch 1 games. A lot of these games you can find a lot cheaper, used, even new. You can find them on sale quite often. But Nintendo themselves, if you buy it from them, it's pretty much always going to be $60 unless it's on sale. So then when you add in a $20 upgrade fee for this Switch 2 version, you end up with an $80 box on the shelf, which is a lot for a game that is effectively 2 years old, which does have new content, but is still that old game. It doesn't look good. I think in terms of value, I guess you could argue that it has that value, but like, it is weird that a brand new game like, say, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which looks like a fully featured 3D platformer, is being sold at a lower price than this old game that has new content and a performance boost. I think it's basically just Nintendo being stubborn about their pricing. Realistically, these really should be not more expensive than brand new games, have presumably years of development time and money put into them. I'm sure a lot of work went into Kirby and the Forgotten Land plus Star-Crossed Worlds, but was it as much as the brand new 3D Donkey Kong game with physics and breakable environments? Probably not. So weird to see it priced that way. Same thing with the Zelda games, like for Tears of the Kingdom, it's going to be $80, and then Breath of the Wild, it's $70, not including DLC. Awkward stuff Very awkward pricing models there. Don't love it. With that said though, I think this will be worth it if you already have the game and want to do a $20 upgrade. If you don't have Kirby and the Forgotten Land or looking to play the Switch 2 version, I'd probably recommend trying to find a cheaper copy, either used or on sale somewhere, which you should be able to find for less than 60, I mean maybe, and then that'll get you a cheaper entry into the Switch 2 version, unless you really just need to have that Switch 2 box. Speaking of Switch 2 boxes, not the biggest fan of them. My first reaction was they're pretty terrible. I've softened on them slightly. Even still, not my favorite design. That's a lot of red bar on the top. And the Switch 2 versions have this nice little disclaimer here. They say little, it's not actually little, it's goddamn huge. So boxes are not looking all that clean. So, you know, if you just wanted a box with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, probably just get the original box, because that's a better looking box, honestly. So go with that if you wanted to get this fresh. And if you already have the game, I'd say it's looking like it's going to be quite worth $20, at least from what has been shown. Our next game is perhaps even more exciting. It was one of the last things revealed in the Direct, so Nintendo does seem to be treating it with quite a lot of pomp and circumstance, which is cool. That's actually not very usual for a Kirby game, so awesome stuff. And that game is Kirby Air Riders, directed by Masahiro Sakurai, developed by Bandai Namco. This trailer was quite unexpected. I kind of refused to believe that it was a new Kirby Air Ride until that rocket booster showed up. That was a good reveal. And yeah, this trailer is very in line with the Smash Bros. Trailers Sakurai has done. Presumably he was involved in making it like he was for those trailers. Not too much shown other than Kirby Air Ride is returning, but there's a bit we can extrapolate from it, possibly. No gameplay was shown, it's all just a CG trailer, just a bit of a teaser, but it is coming out in 2025, so presumably we will not have to wait all that much longer before we see actual gameplay. Based on what we've seen, we have some returning air ride machines, and a familiar looking environment. Looks a bit like Fantasy Meadows from the original Kirby Air Ride. So I think we can expect this to retain some of the core concepts from the original Kirby Air Ride, and potentially featuring one-button gameplay. That's kind of one of the key features of Kirby Air Ride, is that you basically do everything with just one button and then the control stick. So I think it's reasonably likely to expect that to return. I do hope though that the gameplay is refined. The core racing gameplay is not my favorite. It's all the things that are sort of surrounding it that I really like. So I think there is room for improvement there, and Sakurai has had a lot of game dev experience since the original Kirby Air Ride, so presumably he can take that knowledge and apply it to this new release. One interesting thing is the title itself, Kirby Air Riders. It's not Kirby Air Ride 2, it's not Kirby Air Ride subtitle something. I am curious what that title implies. I really can't totally say. Things that come to mind off the top of my head is some sort of multiplayer. But we already know it has multiplayer because it's Kirby Air Ride, and that's kind of one of the core parts of the experience. Will that mean more than 4 players? You know, Mario Kart's getting up to 24 in this in its new game. So are we getting more than 4 racers? Are we getting more characters, perhaps? The original Kirby Air Ride had 3 characters. You had Kirby on his various cars, and then Benonite and King Dedede. Are we getting more Kirby characters that are not Kirby? Maybe. I don't know. Does it imply something in the lore? Kirby Air Ride hasn't really had a story before, but will this one have some sort of story? I don't know. One thing I want to mention about the trailer itself is that it did sort of remind me of the Rosalina Smash Bros. Reveal trailer, which when I originally saw, and I think other people also assumed that it might be Kirby Air Ride 2 or Kirby Air Ride being in Mario Kart. It was a bit of a baffling trailer because you had Kirby racing with the Kirby Air Ride music, and then it goes to Rainbow Road and the Mario Kart characters show up. That trailer kind of threw you off, and I really did think for quite a few seconds, a few glorious seconds, that Kirby Air Ride was returning, but of course it was not at that point, but now it has. So I do wonder if there was something there, if perhaps Sakurai was musing even back then about returning to Kirby Air Ride. certainly not an impossibility, I guess. The fact that it's releasing this year is pretty damn exciting. That means we're going to see more of it soon, and several of these questions will hopefully be answered. I do think it's interesting it's releasing this year, since Mario Kart World is of course also releasing, and that is the headline flagship Switch 2 title. One can hope that that will not result in market overlap. Like if someone wants to buy a racing game on Switch 2, are they going to buy Mario Kart World or Kirby Air Riders? Probably Mario Kart World, but you know, hopefully there's enough to differentiate the two. I think there probably will be, so I think that's probably going to be fine. Mario Kart World is going to sell well regardless. I think most people who get a Switch 2 are probably at some point going to pick up Mario Kart World, whether at launch or after, unless that price really is a sticking point, because you know, you never know. Maybe all that complaining online will result in a loss of sales for Mario Kart World for it being $80. I don't know, it's possible. Not super likely, but I guess that could happen. Speaking of price, we have not gotten a price for Kirby Air Riders. I got my fingers crossed we're gonna do 70. I really do hope 70 is the price for most Switch 2 titles at the high end, and then $80 is reserved for special cases like Mario Kart World or the next open world Zelda game, potentially something like Smash Bros. Just these games with a lot of content and replayability. Interestingly, this is the game that Sakurai has been working on since he finished his YouTube channel. He apparently spent about 6 months working on that YouTube channel, which I highly recommend, by the way. Very informative and interesting, even if you are not a game developer yourself. So yeah, he got that done in about 6 months and then staggered the releases over the next couple of years. And since that time has apparently been working on a new game, which he did not disclose what that game was on his channel. But we can presumably say that it was probably this, which is pretty cool. So that means this game has had a pretty good development cycle. Certainly possible that the development team that worked on Smash Bros. Ultimate is working on this new Kirby title, since it was confirmed that Bandai Namco is the developer. So that may have streamlined things if Sakurai already had a pre-existing rapport with this development team. And I think we can expect the game to perform and look really good, because all of Sakurai's modern projects have done that. His Smash games on 3DS, Wii U, and Switch were some of the system's best looking and performing games. You know, we had 1080p 60 on Wii U, which was actually relatively rare. Runs and looks really good on Switch, so I think we can expect presumably at least 60 frames per second at a pretty high resolution, potentially 1440p. If not 4K. 4K, I wouldn't rule it out, but it seems like most games are targeting 1440p for the max resolution. And then, you know, 120 FPS, you know, it's kind of crazy, but I wouldn't rule that out. It could happen. That would be pretty damn cool to get a Kirby game at 120 frames per second. Let's talk about some other elements I'd like to see return with this new Kirby Air Ride game. First of all, City Trial. This is a dream, man, to have a City Trial potentially returning. Love this mode in the original, and I think there's a lot you could do to expand it in a new game. I wonder if they'll use the same city template as that original or make another new city. It would certainly be cool to have more than one city, and you know, just an increased variety in events, things that happen during battles. Yes, that's all I've ever wanted from a Kirby Air Ride sequel, so let's hope for that. So I think it's very likely that that will return. There will be a lot of backlash if it didn't return, so it seems pretty likely. A bigger question mark, I would say, is Top Ride, the other side mode apart from racing and Air Ride. And this is a fun mode. I like it. I think you could do a Kirby Air Ride sequel without it, though. I certainly think that they might. It just doesn't seem as necessary for the core experience. Definitely the thing I see people talking about the least in regards to Kirby Air Ride. I like it as a mode, but it's definitely more throwaway than the other two modes. So it'll be really interesting to see if that returns, or, you know, potentially if we get any other new experimental modes. I wouldn't rule that out either. I think we'll likely get another big achievement board. The original game had, what, 3 or 4, I think? So there was a lot to unlock. So yes, I think we can count on there being quite a few achievements in-game in this one, which that'll be fun. Online play. I think online play is pretty much a given. It'll be interesting to see what form that takes. Presumably you'll be able to race online. Hopefully there's going to be a city trial online mode if City Trial returns, which I was assuming it will in some form. And you know, will it just be 4 players? I'm hoping there's online matchmaking. That would be great. Not too much to say about that. Okay, so now we've discussed the game, you know, what we could potentially look for when we see it again. Let's discuss when that actually might be. When are we going to get another trailer? I think the earliest possible time frame is probably mid-June, after the Switch 2 has released. I think they will start to turn their attention to the future year of the system, what we can expect from that. I think we'll get another Donkey Kong Bonanza trailer, the additional information on Kirby Air Riders, and we haven't really seen like a new hook that this game has, other than that it's a new Kirby Air Ride, which is in and of itself exciting. I think there will be some sort of central new mechanic or mode, potentially one that relates to the name itself, and we'll presumably see that in the next trailer alongside gameplay. I think we don't have that much longer to wait. I kind of doubt that this is going to be a title releasing in November or December. I think somewhere between, I guess September and October is the time frame I would look at, because we already have Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition in August, and I don't think they would put a Kirby game in November or December, although I guess they could. But yeah, I think September or October is where I would look at for the release date. So really, actually quite soon, that we'll potentially be able to get our hands on the game, you know, if you're actually able to get your hands on a Switch 2 system by then, which is not a given. Alrighty then, I think I've exhausted all thoughts I could come up with for these new Kirby experiences coming to us this year. You know, I think it's certainly fair to have mixed feelings on the Switch 2 system itself. I certainly do. But in terms of the Kirby releases that are coming to it, by God, is it exciting. This is shaping up to be potentially one of the best years in the Kirby series ever. You know, the expanded version of Kirby and the Forgotten Land with an increased performance boost. That's like kind of a dream game there. And then a sequel to Kirby Air Ride with the original director returning. Sakurai's first Kirby game since Kirby Air Ride. The creator himself coming back to the series. That's pretty big, actually. So that's pretty awesome, just to have the original creator come back for one more game. That's actually sick. I always wondered what a new Sakurai Kirby game might look like, and it does kind of make sense that he would return to this idea. So that's just really quite a big deal. And it's also really cool to get a Kirby game being developed by a non-HAL Laboratory developer, and that really has not happened in quite a while, so it will be really fascinating to see what that game looks like when we see more of it. All right then, everybody, thanks for joining me on this Kirby discussion. There's quite a lot to go over. It's an exciting time, frightening time as well, but apart from that, we got Kirby to look forward to, so that's pretty goddamn sick, isn't it?